Hello everyone and welcome back to Stories with me, Jesse. Today's tales come once again from the retail experiences provided by real people over at Reddit/talesfromretail. Let me know what you think of these stories in the comments, and feel free to provide your own suggestions for anything I should feature in a future video. Skip the waiting times by placing your order online, cause we're getting started now. Our first story is titled, Elderly Woman in a Motorized Shopping Cart. So this apparently happened roughly a year and a half ago when I was working the apparel section of a large store. This elderly, rather large woman came in at around 10 minutes to closing and got in one of the motorized shopping carts. No big deal. She's scooting around looking for stuff when she pees herself all over the cart seat and down to the floor. She then approaches one of my coworkers from another department and demands help finding a new dress, as hers is now soaked. I was nearby folding a pile of clothes, and my coworker called me over, and I put on my best customer service smile and said I'd be happy to help her. I asked her the size, style, and color preferences. The exchange went something like this. I'll be glad to help you. What size and style are you looking for?
A 2X or a 3X? It has to be long.
Pulling a dress with flowers on it that matched her criteria. How about this?
What size is that?
It's a 2X.
Find me a 3X.
I'm sorry, we don't have this style in a 3X. We can check other departments if you'd like.
But I like that one.
Well, it goes up to a 2X.
But I need a 3X.
I'm sorry, I wish I could help you out with that.
You expect me just to sit in here like this? What do they even pay you for?
At this point, I'm getting frustrated. The woman's clothing wasn't even my section. I called over another apparel worker that knew the women's clothing section better and explained the situation and what the woman was looking for. She agreed to help and asked the woman to follow her. The woman looks at me.
Are you coming, or are you just pawning me off on her?
She's more familiar with this section and knows where all the nice dresses are. She can help you better than I can. The woman scoffs and scoots away after my coworker. I take a deep breath and get back to work. A few minutes after closing, I'm taking the final bits of clothing to the fitting room to be put away the next day, and my coworker is there and she sees me and says, "Hey, can you hold this sweater over the door while I help her change?" I look into the fitting room and sure enough, it's her. The cart wouldn't fit all the way in, so the door wouldn't close. I took the sweater and held it up over the doorway while my friend helped the woman into the new dress. After she's got her new dress on, she scoots away. My friend and I look at each other and start laughing at how ridiculous the whole thing was. Yikes! While I try my best to respect our senior customers, I respectfully draw the line at helping people change in the store. I deal with situations very similar to this one almost every day as it comes with the territory. Although I've never quite experienced someone relieving themselves in front of me. Gross. Moving on, our next story is called Old Man Tells Me I Should Wear a Sign That Says, I'm Stupid, around my neck. So this happened a few years ago. I was a cashier at a local grocery store, and that day was handling the self-checkout. The self-checkouts would break constantly and usually only take one type of payment or another, cash or card, but almost never both at a single register. This one day was pretty busy, and an elderly man comes up on a riding cart. I tell him the one he's chosen is cards only, which was on the screen and even provided a prompt you had to read and agree to before starting your checkout. He acknowledged me and the prompt and checked his groceries. As soon as he's finished, of course, he pulls out cash and gets pretty frustrated the machine won't take it. I remind him the machine was cards only, but if I could pull his order over to my register and finish his transaction there, the only issue was that we would just have to wait a moment for a supervisor to approve it, as it required a supervisor to suspend transactions and move them to another register. He held his cash out to me and told me to just take the money and give him his change. He wanted me to open my register, an action that would also need a supervisor's approval, do the math from the total on his screen, and give him his change right then. I told him I couldn't do that, as the supervisor had to manually open the register for me when not in a transaction. And this grown man looks straight up at me and says,
That's stupid! You should wear a sign around your neck that says you're stupid!
And then he just left without his stuff. I was so dumbfounded at the time, I couldn't even fathom a response. His insult was just so out of left field. Sometimes people just don't know how to read. The guy was obviously stupid himself for not understanding that the associate helping him wasn't some kind of genie. Our final story is called Chill, lady. It's just milk. So this happened a little over a year ago when I was still new to working at my job as a courtesy clerk. Someone who bags groceries, cleans messes, does go-backs, etc., etc. It was late at night and the store was near its closing time. As a result, there weren't that many people in the other lines and none in mine. So me and my cashier coworker, let's call her Annie, were waiting for customers to come to our line whenever. Eventually, a woman comes to our line and places her gallon of milk onto the conveyor belt. Annie gives her the general greetings of "Good afternoon" and "Will that be all?" Something about this lady's demeanor sort of put me on edge initially. It may have been her face at the time. She really looked pissed off about something, but seemed like she was trying to bite it back to buy her milk. Her total came up to a certain amount, and she was a few coins short. She glared at Annie for a second before saying, "For real?" And then she turned and walked away from the register without another word. We weren't exactly sure what she intended to do, so Annie asked me to put the milk into the cooler, which was only a few feet away. A few minutes after I had done that, the lady came back into the store and walked briskly back to our lane. She looked around and then glared at Annie again. "You really put my milk back?" she snapped in a really pissed off tone. "I can go get it," I said before I quickly walked back to the cooler to get her milk. As I was coming back, I noticed the tension was starting to rise between this lady and Annie. The lady was growling and swearing at Annie under her breath, calling her all sorts of names. But here's one thing about Annie. Annie is a really nice lady. She's a real joy to work with, but when she gets upset, you'll know. And if she's mad, woo boy. So here I am, my head going back and forth like I'm watching a tennis match. As these two are tossing insults back and forth, it's quickly becoming more and more heated. Annie finally counts out the change and hands it to the lady. And of course she takes the money and leaves as to not cause a bigger scene, right? Wrong. The lady balls her fist and chucks the change right into my coworker's face. Annie was pissed. I really thought she was going to jump over the counter and deck this woman in the face. Anybody who was at the front were all in shock as the two yelled at each other. This continued until the lady turned and left just as quickly as she came. A few minutes go by and our security guard at the time comes back up to the front.
What happened?
He asked, looking around at everyone. Everyone whipped their heads around to him. "Where were you?"
I was still on break.
Gee whiz, some people just need to find their center and take it down a notch. It really makes me wonder if this kind of rudeness is born into people or a beastly form they eventually take on. Even I have my boiling point, folks, but it takes an awful lot for me to get there. Anyways, that's about all the time we have for today, ladies and gentlemen. I apologize for the shorter than usual video. Thanks again for tuning in with me, Jesse. What did you think of these stories? Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe for more content and click another video of ours on the screen. Have a beautiful day and try to be nice to someone. Catch you in the next one.